This is John. Today I'm joined by Cuz Geekus on the beat as we discuss Heads I Win with author Martin Palmer. How are you, sir? Sirs,
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's good to be
thanks for
here.
joining us. Martin, let me start off by asking if you could give us just a little bit of your background.
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Chicago, but now I make my home in Colorado Springs. I joined the Army back in 1979, and I was a military policeman. I was stationed here in the U.S. and then overseas in Germany. Did a few deployments, Central America in the 80s, and then the Middle East during the first Gulf War. Um, uh, Following the Gulf War, I took a lot of staff jobs in the Army, and amongst them were uh, writing awards and eventually training exercises, which gave me a lot of experience in writing that I really appreciated. Later years in the military career, I started studying database management, which eventually led me to uh, cybersecurity and that kind of thing, network management and things like that. Yeah, I found it fascinating, especially because there was just so much going on in the world that really just was interesting to get in on the ground floor on some of that stuff. So eventually, I was discharged from the military, and now I do work as a systems administrator for a local company here in Colorado Springs. And I took up writing. So, yeah.
So, why did you decide to write a book?
I think what I really decided is around the time, maybe about 15 years ago, I started getting really disappointed with the James Bond series. I was a huge fan of the Ian Fleming books, and I just was getting kind of disappointed with where they were going, or where the those who picked up the Bond series, where it was going. And I said, I asked myself, what would I do if I were in charge? And I just came up with a few ideas. And finally, I was like, yeah, it would be, I think Bond would be good with like cybersecurity type of thing. Well, obviously, I don't have the rights to write James Bond stories, but I decided there's nothing preventing me from writing my own. And it was around the time COVID hit. I suddenly got free time, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to write that book. So I started it and finally finished it last year, late last year, and got it published on Amazon. So it
Makes
was it was an adventure.
makes perfect sense. But now I will turn it over to Cuz. Cuz, you got specific questions about the book. I be honest, I have not read it yet. I plan on reading it, but Cuz is more the expert so far.
Huh.
Yeah. Thanks, John G. Good to see you, Martin. I know we ran into each other at Flashback Weekend. It's been a long time. It was really good to see you. And then you started to talk about the book, and after we had met, I picked up the book and was really impressed. Really a great read. It was well written, suspenseful, a really well crafted plot, and a lot of interesting characters in there. And particularly your protagonist, Lance Becker.
Oh yeah.
He is. You can maybe expand a little bit on his character. He seems to be kind of like the cybersecurity James Bond. How did you kind of come to that, developing that character and having him kind of as a central part of the book?
Well, I figured since British Secret Service agents were already taken, I decided to make him American, and make him a cybersecurity expert, and just throw some past out there that would create his character. He's an ex-Chicago cop. He was injured in the line of duty. Uh, when he recovered, he became an NSA contractor. He left the NSA with quite disillusioned with things going on there, and then he decided to start his own company. One of his first clients is a Middle Eastern prince who he helps avert a war in the Middle East, and so that became one of those plot points that I really had fun creating. It's just you create a story like that. It kind of also brings me back to like when I wrote training exercises for the Army. I integrated a lot of real life situations into the training exercises. At the time I was doing that, former Yugoslavia was in a world of hurt, was just bad left and right. And we were sending troops over there as peacekeepers. And our troops had only been trained in war fighting. Now came a time to where we had to say, we're not fighting a war, we're trying to keep the peace. And so I integrated a lot of the things that were going on in real life into those exercises. And that's what I wanted to do with Heads I Win. I took a lot of real life real life things that have happened in true to life, and just integrated them in, changed the names to protect the innocent and the guilty, but just had a lot of fun with that as well here. But Lance Becker, getting back to Lance Becker, he became just my American version of James Bond, only just a little different, so.
Yeah, and I thought it was really cool how you did incorporate so many real life events, and obviously you used different names and made it, but the reader could definitely identify where you were going with some of that stuff, and I thought that was really a nice touch. The cybersecurity is really a hot topic today, it seems like, and just talk a little bit about how you kind of made that as kind of the central point of the book, and again, kind of making that the reason for Lance Becker's efforts.
Well, yeah, I really like the idea that cybersecurity. Well, first off, considering our cyber existence, so much relies on it. It's a real. So much about it is just stuff that we need to really keep in mind. Our food supply chain, our regular supply chain, is such a big deal. Energy, utilities, everything else is reliant upon our having cybersecurity. One of the true stories that I implemented into this had to do with a company I named United Express, which is a big shipping company. And I based this upon a true story. Back in 2017, this is before the Russia-Ukraine war that we're currently going on. But in 2017, the Russians launched a cyber attack against Ukraine, and it hit their version of the Ukrainian version of QuickBooks. And of course, everybody in Ukraine who was online was using that kind of stuff, and it spread. It was not just a virus, it was a worm. And the difference being a virus hits your computer and just screws it up. A worm hits your computer, screws it up, and then it moves on to the next computer, and it keeps moving and propagating out. The thing about this cyber attack that hit that Ukrainian version of QuickBooks, it went all around, and it didn't stop within Ukraine's borders. And it hit the Maersk shipping company in Copenhagen. And they, of course, have thousands of employees, ships, ports, offices all the way around the world. And everything got hit all at once. It was a disaster for the company. Well, true story being, they were having trouble with the company, the domain controller for the company, which basically says who can do what on their network. And that was completely gone. It was they didn't know what they were going to do. They found one of their offices in Ghana, West Africa, that had coincidentally a power outage during this attack. So they were able to recover that drive and recover the entire company just from that. Now, in the version I wrote about, it was it's a little more dramatic than what went on with Maersk. But it was just an amazing story to me because, first off, in that entire 2017 attack, basically the country of Ukraine was shut down. It was just shut down, a ghost town, and people couldn't get anything. You think about it. Okay, what would you do if you couldn't use your credit card at an ATM? You couldn't use it at the gas pump or things like that. That's what happened. And that's the kind of thing I thought, this is just amazing what happened. So I like to, I built up on that, wanted to make it a lot more dramatic, and I had fun doing it. So, yeah.
What I thought was really good is, you really went into a lot of different complex cybersecurity types of attacks throughout the book. And but you kind of explained it where it was very understandable to the layman, because I'm not particularly, I'm maybe technologically challenged at times. So some of that was like, I'm kind of reading it, and then you'd go on to explain it, and you kind of gave a simple explanation to say, well, here's the cybersecurity tech, and here's really what's happening, and I thought that was really good. It really made it easy for the reader to kind of follow along what was going on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's always been one of those things too. Obviously, yeah, computers, networks, cybersecurity, it is very complex. And the more simplified one can make it, I think that becomes, it makes the story much easier to read and much better for it. I too, I get challenged, quite a bit. And I look at some of the stuff that I'm supposed to know, and I say, okay, I've got to get this down to a simpler approach here. Take, for example, one attack that happens quite a bit is something called a DDoS attack. And I read that and I go, what in tarnation is that? Well, and it's not very difficult to explain. And you just imagine if you had an office receptionist and she's sitting at her desk and somebody calls her and says, hey, is this phone working? And she says, yeah, it's working, and then hangs up. Okay, interrupts her for about, 5 seconds tops, okay? But now imagine if 100,000 people were calling her every second and she had to answer every call. Yeah. That's what a DDoS attack is that reaching out to a server and saying, are you there? Are you there? And it just keeps going on and on and on. And the fact is, too, if a server is having to answer that all the time, it can't do anything else. So it becomes one of those things, it's a very common attack. And then you have something like a DOS attack, a distributed DOS attack, where it's like many computers attacking the same place at once, all from different locations. This is it could be just someone's computer sitting in their office, is just running this DOS attack, and they don't even know it's happening. So that's what makes things kind of interesting. But yeah, I love the idea of bringing things down to a simple level. And if that can happen, then I feel like I've accomplished something.
Yeah, and I have to say that obviously the cybersecurity is the plot point of the book, but what was really I thought was really great was there was so much action and adventure in the book as well. It wasn't it wasn't just constantly the technology part of it. The protagonist being with his cronies are with him, and then he's got all these antagonists going after him, and going from different countries to different countries. I thought was really interesting. So a lot of excitement and suspense in the book. In addition, that was combined with all of the technology part of it. And again, that's kind of James Bond kind of is a good reference for something like that with again with the action portion of it.
Oh, thank you. I do have to say I do owe that to Ian Fleming. He was constantly having Bond travel around the world and things like that, and I felt, yeah, that looks like it looks like fun. So now the biggest challenge, though, of course, was that a lot of those places that I mentioned in the book, I've never been to.
I was wondering about that, actually.
So I had to, do a little research on that as well. And, and again, it's one of those things where, boy, I'm glad we have technology today. I've got, I'm able to look up travel brochures to places I've never been to, and I'm able to look up YouTube videos and people who describe these places. I'm able to see it and say, okay, I think that's where I want this story to take place. I will say, I have been to Hamburg, though. I've been to Hamburg, Germany. That's where part of the story takes place. So, yeah, sure. I've been there.
That was great. So when Martin Palmer isn't writing, who are some of your favorite authors? Obviously Ian Fleming. Other who else, fiction or nonfiction that you like reading?
Well, it goes down. One of my favorites is Jack Kerouac. And I'm sorry, I just could not write like he does. I think he does such great flowing stories. It's just brilliant writing. But another one that I really enjoyed, and this was one years ago in 1982, and our friend Mike Kurz got me to meet Stephen King. And
Wow.
He was on a tour, a promotional tour with George Romero. Now, I really didn't know Stephen King that well. I was like, didn't he write The Shining and was it Carrie or something? I'm not sure. I really didn't know for sure. Stephen King, didn't he write that? I was a little bit taken. And he says, no, George Romero's with him. I'm like, George
Yeah.
Romero, the Night of the Living Dead guy. Oh, of course, and go in to, see him. And it's like, George Romero, you're my hero. I love your stuff. And thank you. This is Stephen King. Yeah. Good Stephen King. Yeah, George Romero. Let's talk.
Yeah.
But no, after I met Stephen King, I was just really impressed. This guy he knows how to just turn writing into such a flowing, make it so easy. One of my favorite books of his is called The Dead Zone. And another thing about The Dead Zone, I was really impressed with that book. It also integrated true facts or true stories, historical references in the book that made you feel like this is a real story. And I liked that, so I owe that to Mr. King, definitely. So.
That's a cool story. So one last question then. What's next for Lance Becker? Another adventure, or you have anything else planned?
Yes, as a matter of fact, well, right now I put Lance Becker on the back burner for a short while. I'm right now finishing a Western that I've been working on. I just like the idea of just exploring different genres and different areas and stuff. I want to get this Western finished, and I'm within my timeline that I'm working on. I have the outline set up for the next Lance Becker adventure. This one is going to be probably a little different. I'm just seeing where it'll take me, but it's definitely still involves some of the major things, major points: cybersecurity, how much we depend upon technology, and global adventures.
Oh, that's great, Martin. That's great.
Hey, thank you.
Well, as someone who works for Global Traveler Magazine, I'm happy to see that you're incorporating a lot of the world into your novels. It certainly helps my cause. Martin, I really appreciate your time. Cuz has spoken very highly of the book. I can't wait to read it. Before we let you go, tell everybody where they could find out more information about you and your book.
Well, I have a website, martinpalmer.net. The book itself is available on Amazon. Amazon under Heads I Win by Martin Palmer. It's available in paperback and Kindle. There's also a link on my webpage to that page itself, to the Amazon site.
Well, it comes highly rated from Cuz, and if Cuz likes it, I'm pretty sure I will like it. Look
Great.
forward to my books to read 2024 list coming in Global Traveler December. I'm pretty sure you're going to make that list. I just have a feeling based on what Cuz has said. Martin, really appreciate your time. Cuz, thank you very much for helping me with this. You've once again risen to the challenge. Any last words, Martin?
Just thank you so much for the consideration reading my book. Thanks for letting me talk about it, because honestly, I could go on quite a while on this book too. So, but I sure appreciate this very much. Thank you.
Well, thanks for sharing your story. Gentlemen, have a great day.
Likewise, you too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.